All right, let's dive deep today, huh? Into the book of Jonah. I mean, everyone remembers the whale, right?
Right.
But the real story, the good stuff, happens after. And let me tell you, it gets kind of messy.
It's interesting, actually. With Jonah, it's not just some, simple story about this prophet who didn't want to do what God said and a big fish.
Right, right.
There's a lot more going on. It makes you think about forgiveness, like what does that really mean? And justice, too. And how do you really have compassion, especially for people who've done awful things?
Okay, so set the scene for us.
Yeah.
We've got Jonah. He's done the whole whale thing, and he's just told the Ninevites what God said. And they repent, everything's fine, disaster averted. But Jonah,
No.
not happy.
No.
Not happy at all. I mean, furious.
Yeah, and to really get why he's so angry, we got to understand Nineveh, right?
Right.
This wasn't just any old city. It was the capital of Assyria, a whole empire.
Yeah.
And they were known for being brutal, especially to the Israelites. Can you imagine what Jonah must have felt with all that history weighing on him?
Their king, Sennacherib.
Yeah.
Brutal guy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just him. I mean, the Assyrians, they were known for, like, mass deportations to break up communities, right?
Yeah.
Destroying holy sites on purpose. And even, I've read about this, skinning their enemies alive.
Exactly. It was all about terror, making people terrified, breaking their spirit. So when God's like, okay, I forgive them, to the very people who made Jonah's people suffer, it's not some abstract theological debate for Jonah. It's personal, like deep down personal.
Yeah. So we're not talking about just regular anger here. This is, I don't know, maybe even trauma, right?
Yeah.
It makes more sense, kind of, why he wants to just get away, be by himself outside the city.
Yeah, he builds this little shelter, almost like he's trying to shut the whole world out. You know, it reminds me of something Reverend Farnsworth said about those times when you just can't forgive. He gave some really tough examples, like seeing someone who abused someone else standing in court, saying they've changed, but the victim, they're still hurting.
Yeah. Or like, you've got a friend, they're struggling maybe with addiction or something, and they just won't get help. You know you should forgive, but
It's hard.
it's hard.
Because sometimes that pain, that anger, it's like a safe place. We know it. It's familiar, even if it's not good for us.
Right. Then there's the whole plant thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
It grows up, gives Jonah some shade, he gets a little break. Farnsworth, he calls it that moment.
Yeah, that brief relief.
But it doesn't last.
It's like you're clinging to that anger. You even find a little comfort in it. But it's temporary, right? It doesn't fix the problem.
And of course the plant dies.
Yeah.
And Jonah, miserable again. But now he's mad at God. Like, really? You give me a little bit of peace and then take it away?
It just shows you how much Jonah's holding on to this pain.
Yeah.
Won't let go, even though it's obviously making things worse. He's just lashing out. Can't deal with it,
And God, instead of punishing him, just asks this question. Should I not care about Nineveh, this great city?
And what's so amazing is the question goes on. And also many animals. Like, God's compassion isn't just for people, it's for everything. It's this big reminder. Forgiveness, it's not about deserving it. It's about seeing the value in everyone, everything.
But here's the thing, and I gotta admit, it kind of bugs me. The book doesn't say what happens next. We know Nineveh changed, at least for a while. But did Jonah ever, make peace with them? Did he get over his anger? Or did someone else have to do it?
That's the question, isn't it? Did Jonah find a way to, be a witness to their change? Or was that too much for him? Did someone else in the community have to step up? Maybe it was too dangerous, too painful for Jonah to do it himself?
Which brings us to this really interesting problem. How do you hold people accountable for doing wrong, but also try to reconcile? Is it always safe or even possible to confront the people who hurt you?
It's tough. No easy answers. Sometimes you have to put yourself first, right? Emotionally, spiritually, even physically. Maybe it means you can't be the one to actually face those who hurt you.
So maybe Jonah, he kind of started things off, planted the seed.
Yeah.
But other people, maybe they were better equipped to handle it, to build those bridges,
Yeah, and that's something important, isn't it? Bearing witness, it doesn't always mean you have to stand there right in front of the person who hurt you. Sometimes it means supporting the people who can do that, or working to change the systems that cause harm in the first place.
Because it's all about trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Right? More just, more compassionate, even if it doesn't look the way we thought it would.
And that's what makes Jonah's story so important for us today, because let's face it, we're surrounded by conflict, by situations where forgiveness and reconciliation, It's a struggle.
Yeah, it's like every time you open up your phone, the news, social media,
Mm-hmm.
it's just constant reminders of how divided we are.
Yeah.
Injustice, people just being awful to each other.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed. Like you don't even know where to start.
It's tempting, isn't it, to just kind of retreat, stay in your own little bubble where everyone agrees with you.
Right.
Surround yourself with people who think and feel the same way you do. But does that really solve anything?
It's like we're all building those little shelters like Jonah did.
Yeah.
Except now they're made of like news sources and social media filters. Just picking what we want to see.
Exactly. And just like that plant in the story, that kind of comfort, it's temporary, might protect you from the real world for a little bit, but eventually it goes away. And then you're even more exposed.
So what are we supposed to do? Do we have to go out and fight every injustice? Confront every single person who's ever done us wrong? Is that what it means to, like, really bear witness?
That's where things get tricky. And this is what I find so interesting about that unanswered question in the book of Jonah. What did he actually do?
Right.
It makes you think about all the different ways you can make the world better, more just and compassionate, without necessarily putting yourself in danger.
So maybe it's not about forcing yourself into situations that are unsafe.
Right.
Or that bring back trauma. It's about finding a way to be involved that works for you. And honestly, what you're actually called to do.
Exactly. For some people, that might mean actually talking to people who have totally different beliefs. Having those difficult conversations, trying to understand each other, even when it's hard.
Like those prophets who, maybe, went back to Nineveh after Jonah left.
Maybe.
They kept calling people to be better, even though those were the same people who had hurt them before.
Exactly. But for others, bearing witness might be something else. Maybe it's supporting the people who are doing that hard work, giving them resources, helping their voices be heard. Or maybe it's about creating spaces where people can talk and heal.
Yeah. Or it could be about focusing on the bigger picture, like changing the systems that cause injustice and inequality in the first place.
Right.
Because sometimes the best way to bear witness is to stop the harm from happening at all.
And let's not forget about self-care. You can't give what you don't have, right?
Yeah, true.
If you're always in the middle of these tough conversations, these situations that drain you emotionally,
All right.
if you don't take time to recharge, to reconnect with what's important to you, you're going to burn out.
And then you can't help anyone.
Exactly. So part of bearing witness is also about knowing your limits, knowing when to step back, when to ask for help, and when to say, this is too much right now.
Because it's about being able to keep going, right? Finding a way to deal with these challenges so you don't give up.
Which might mean finding your own version of that Nineveh community.
Yeah.
People who believe in the same things you do, who can support you when it gets tough.
Because, let's be honest, this is hard work.
Yeah.
It's messy. And sometimes you don't even get a thank you. It's not for everyone.
No, it's not. But it's also incredibly important. If we let ourselves get eaten up by anger, resentment, wanting to shut out the world, we're giving up on the chance for things to get better.
And we can't do that, can we?
Not if we truly believe in forgiveness, not if we think people can change, and not if we believe that everyone has value, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, even the people who hurt us.
So it's about holding on to that hope, that belief that even when things are really bad, when it seems like nothing can get better, there's always a way forward, a path towards healing and reconciliation.
And sometimes that path starts with a simple question. Should I not care? It makes us think bigger, be more compassionate, step outside of what's comfortable, and figure out how we can create a world that's more just, more merciful, and more loving.
And maybe, just maybe, when we answer that question, when we choose to get involved instead of hiding away, we can start to create a world where stories like Jonah's aren't just ancient history, they're actually examples of how forgiveness and reconciliation can really change things. So, a lot to think about here. But where do we go from here? Like, how do we actually take all this, the forgiveness, the bearing witness, and make it real in our own lives? It's easy to talk about, but what does it look like, day to day?
Well, I think Farnsworth's right. At the end, his challenge, it really hits you. God's always asking us to bear witness, even when, or maybe especially when, it's really hard.
So we don't all have to go find a modern-day Nineveh, right?
No, probably not. It's more about look around you.
Yeah.
Your life, your community. Where is God pushing you a little to do something that's outside your comfort zone?
Do something that maybe feels a little risky.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's having that hard conversation with a relative who, I don't know, has totally different political views than you. Or maybe it's volunteering somewhere with people you usually wouldn't spend time with.
Or even just, like, Being more aware of our own biases, the
Yeah.
ways we judge people without even realizing it, that contributes to the division.
Absolutely. It's those small things. Every day, being brave, being kind. When we all do them, it can change things, little by little.
And I think it's good to remember, we talked about this, sometimes bearing witness means knowing when to step back. Let someone else handle it, especially if it's going to hurt you.
Yeah, you got to protect yourself, too.
Self-care isn't selfish.
Right.
It's important. You can't help other people if you're exhausted.
Exactly. It's finding that balance, being involved, but also finding peace for yourself.
Right,
And it's not like you get there and you're done.
right.
It's a process. We're going to mess up, make mistakes. There are going to be times when you just want to build that little shelter, shut everything out.
Hide away.
Yeah. But the important thing is you got to get back up. Keep asking those hard questions. Try to live a life you believe in, even when it's tough. Because Jonah's story, it's not just about one guy and his anger.
Right.
It's about how compassion can change us. It's about seeing that we're all connected and believing that we can make the world better, more merciful, more just.
So here's what I want to leave you with. Think about this stuff. Maybe even read the book of Jonah again. See what you find. This isn't just an old story. It's like a challenge for us right now.
Ask yourself, where in your life is God saying, go do something? Where do you need to get out of your comfort zone? Maybe it'll be uncomfortable, but it could make the world better, more compassionate, more just.
Think about it. And then do something. The world needs what you have to offer. Your courage, your kindness.
Yeah, even the smallest act of kindness matters. Start where you are with what you have and believe that it'll make a difference, even if it's not perfect.
Thanks for being with us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep searching, keep asking questions, and keep trying to make the world a better place.